Hello everyone, welcome to chapter 132 on my RLDR Custom Creations YouTube channel. It is the Easter weekend edition, and I'm dressed in my welding gear, and I've got some strange setup happening today. So it's something I've never done before, and if you want to see what that is, you know what you need to do. All you need to do is stay tuned. Well, like I said, another thing that I'm going to try to do that I have never done before. And it's another one of these videos where I have to get my welder out to enhance my woodworking. So it's a bit of a long story, but I'm going to explain it to you. So if you've watched my channel at all, you know that I like the Delta Unifence. Now, I need to do some setup to mine. They're getting a little sticky and things like that. But overall, I like the fact that you can put the fence in what I call the high position and flip it to the low position when you're working closer to the blade. I love that. And there are some fences now that are starting to catch on to that again. So that's wonderful. But I like these. But these are getting harder and harder to come by. And this Unifence that I bought was a mistake. I really wish the person would have been a tad more forthcoming in their ad. Basically, they took a good picture of it, didn't take a picture of any of the damage, and I went there, we agreed on a price over the phone. Yeah, there are not many of them around, so I was sure I was going to take it, and I got there, and the main rail had been cut off a foot, and this thing had blade damage in it, and I was quite disappointed with it. And when I look at it, that's pretty straight. We can fix that though. But so I was kind of disappointed I'd bought it. I ended up buying a different fence for what I was going to use it for. I bought it's a general table saw that I put on my my dado blade saw. I don't know if I shot a video of that or not. I know I wrote about it, but I don't think I did a video about it. So anyway, it turns out though I'm still going to need this fence, but I'd like to repair this, and my goal for today is to fill this with aluminum weld. Now, I've never welded aluminum before, and I am not really set up to do it. And the way I'm going to do it is probably going to, especially for those of you who do weld, you will laugh at this. Okay, this is about as backyard as it gets, but it kind of works. So I'm just going to put this back, and I am going to hook up my ground clamp to it right away. There's a bit of a story there. Okay. So anyway, that's where it's going to get welded. So this is my experience with aluminum welding so far. I've welded about 1 inch, and I got this all to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I set this all up, and then we're going to do some welding and see if I can manage to do it. So anyway, we'll be back. Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of a look at the setup that I am using to patch this aluminum fence rail. So, okay, first of all, I'm going to tell you what should be happening. So what should happen is for aluminum wire, because it is really, really soft and breaks easily, your wire should not be pushed like I'm going to do here. So it comes off the reel into these feed rollers here, and it pushes it through the whip, pushes it to the other end. Okay, now what should happen is at this end, I should have what's called a spool gun. Now, a spool gun uses a small roll like this, and you hold it in your hand, very much like I'm holding my camera now, kind of a pistol grip, and away you go. That's the way aluminum should be welded. But a spool gun for this miller is not cheap. Last I checked, I think it was about $1,500, and for the little bit that I'll do aluminum, it's just not worth it. So again, my friend and mentor did this 25 years ago, in his shop on the farm, and he had a smaller MIG, but it seemed to work just fine for him. So I watched a couple of videos just to refresh what I needed to know, and I managed to get it to weld yesterday. So let me walk you through what I am going to do. There's a few things that are quite important here. So, oh, I need that back. Okay, we'll just set that there. Okay, first of all, the gas that you're using for this. Okay, this is pure argon, and apparently that's quite important. I have such a little bit of experience with aluminum that I've never tried it with a standard MIG mix, but apparently it doesn't work. So everybody says, yes, you need argon. And the other thing that they mention is to use a little higher flow rate. Now, my flow rate that I've adjusted is probably a bit too much. When I'm welding, I'm at about 30 CFM here, which is probably a bit too high. But now that I can't bring my whip any closer to the welder here, my MIG gun, I had to stand over there, so set the pressure, and then walk away and press the trigger. So I gave up at about 30. I thought that's close enough. I think if anything, I have a little bit too much gas, and that's not going to hurt. For the little bit that I'm doing, that isn't going to hurt. Now, there's another thing that they recommend that you change that I didn't change. I could have, but for the little bit of aluminum that I'm welding, I didn't think it was worth it. Okay, in this, some people call it a whip, your liner. There's a liner in here. So there's a tube, and then there's a tube within the tube, and it's kind of like spiral wire like that. And they say, the YouTube that never lies, they say that when you're welding aluminum this way, you should have one size larger liner than the wire you're running. So this is 035 wire. I should have a 045 liner in, but I don't have one. And I'm not spending that amount of money and changing it all over for a little bit of weld. So I'm hoping that this will work. And it worked for 1 inch of weld yesterday, so hopefully it'll work again. The other thing that they mention is running one size larger contact tip. Okay, let's get you in focus here. That's that thing in the center of the circle there. Yeah, and I'll show you, here's one. This is where the energy transfers into the wire, and there's a hole in there, and this is for 035 wire. I don't have a 045 tip, so I just took my cutting fluid and a 1/16 inch drill bit, and I drilled through and made a larger hole. It isn't sized appropriately, but it works. I noticed when I tried to weld with just my 035 tip in, the wire wouldn't push through it. And when the wire doesn't push, it bird nests and breaks. So you already notice that I've got my whip zip tied to a 2x4. Well, the other thing when you're pushing your wire through, it's important to keep your whip as straight as possible. So what happens now with mine, I've got a 2x4 stud here, and it goes to the end, and then I'm going to just loop around to where I have to weld. And that seemed to work yesterday, so hopefully it'll work again today. So yeah, it seemed to work. I had an incident yesterday where I thought I had my ground clamp hooked up, and I would put the nozzle on, get ready to weld, pull the trigger, and I'd have an automatic bird's nest. Well, there's so little, it takes so little pressure to cause problems here that just not having it weld right away was enough to cause a bird's nest. If I have used that term, and I don't think I've explained it yet, a bird's nest happens when you're pushing wire here and something gets messed up in the feed rollers and it just comes kind of out and starts looping around and it makes an awful mess. So, but I've cleaned up a few already with this aluminum wire, and I'm getting pretty good at it. But one thing that I just didn't think of, okay, like my aluminum wire came on a little reel like this. Well, that doesn't fit on this welder. So I didn't know what to do. So I texted. Luckily, they haven't completely banished me from the school yet. So I texted Rob over there, the shop teacher, and asked if he had an empty reel kicking around. Sure enough, he did, and he was gracious enough to give it to me so that I could transfer all the wire from this reel to this reel. And that, okay, so far I've been lucky. But I've had rolls of regular MIG wire that haven't been reeled properly, and that doesn't work well. They stick and drag, and it's hard to weld with them. So I'm hoping this works. So anyway, that's what I'm up against today. We're going to fire this up, hopefully keep our fingers crossed that everything goes well, and I'm going to try to patch that Unifence. Okay, we'll be back when we're starting to do some welding. Well, it's not the prettiest I've ever seen, but I'm welding on this part here now. There's kind of a section like that, so this is the upright part. And I put a piece of brass in here because there's a channel back there that I'd like to keep. Don't know if I necessarily need to, but I had this piece kicking around, so I slid it in there. So now what I'm going to do is just weld the top here. Now I'm pretty okay with, I mean, for being a carpenter welder, and I'm still in my first 6 inches of bead with aluminum. I'm okay with this. I think it's going to work because I'm going to surface it all anyway. So the outside appearance, as long as there's no holes or anything, and it looks okay. So I think I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. The wire brush, slide my shim back in there, and I'm going to show you how it works. The one thing that impresses me is I'm at 21 volts, and I think, because my welder's old, it has arbitrary settings for wire speed. It doesn't give them in inches per minute. On my Miller 250, it's at about, it says 45 on the wire speed, but I think to convert that, that's got to be somewhere around 250 inches per minute. So it goes into spray beautifully. I was so impressed. Okay, let's run a little bit of bead for YouTube here. Okay, where's my plier? I always like to start with the right amount to stick out. And I don't know if you can see it. I've got the door open because my smoke detector decided it was time to talk again. So, oh, and where's my jeepers? I just about started without my welding helmet. That would have been bad. Here, let's go get that thing. A rule of YouTube. Always try to be prepared for your shot before you start talking. Okay, now I think we're ready. So, and I'm going to be pushing when I do this. I think that's the right way to do it for shield gas. So, okay, and I'm going to try to run all the way along here. All right, here we go. Well, it's not perfect, but I'm going to clean it a little bit, and I'm going to run along the top here now. I'm not sure how this build-up works with this, but I'm just doing the best I can. Okay, here we go again. Oh, I can live with that. Now, I think I need a little bit more here yet to get that corner. It'd be close, but I think I'm going to give it a little bit more. I'm just so impressed with the way it goes into spray. I need to explain what spray transfer is maybe for the woodworkers watching this. Oh, I think I've got lots there. Okay, I'm just going to, I got a little bit of an air hole here. I'm going to fill that. Well, I'm going to leave my welder set up while I grind this. Oh, and there's another one. I didn't even see this one. Okay. Oh, bird's nest. Okay, and we've got the smoke detector going. Okay, this is a good time to make some changes. 0. Well, I've got all the ventilation going and cleared up the bird's nest and had a chance to look at this a little bit more. And I think I'm going to put a little bit more weld in there because once I close this, I take this apart, it's too hard to set up to just pull it out to do one little weld. So hopefully this is going to work again, and we're going to weld from here to there. And maybe a little more here. And a little bit more here. Oh, shoot. It doesn't like those startups. Okay. Well, you know what? I think I'm going to finish this off camera. There's just this little thing to do, and I want to fix this one yet. And I think that's it. Yeah, there we go again. Okay. 1, 0. And we're back. The bird's nest is cleaned up. The smoke detector silenced. All I have to do is a little bit here, and I think a little bit there, and then I'm going to call it. The one thing I maybe should have been doing a better job of is cleaning this. And I put a wire wheel on my drill, and I cleaned this up better. Got rid of all the black stuff. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit more, and then hopefully we can get this done. That's lots. Okay, now here we go. I've had trouble with this one. Okay, something happened. I think we've got another bird's nest. But I think that's going to be good. I think that's all the welding I'm going to show you. And we'll clean this up. Oops. And we'll wrap this video up. Wow, who'd have thought with a crude and rudimentary setup that I'd be able to weld aluminum like that. And I think with a little bit of practice, I think I could get better at this. Like a couple of the questions I had about aluminum, like when you're doing really thin aluminum like this is, it's probably about 1/8 of an inch, you know, I was always told that you had to use spray transfer when you welded aluminum. So I'm assuming they're building trailers, they're welding 1/4 inch. Okay, they can crank the welder up and go, because I'm used to running spray with steel. And you need, what is it, 26 volts and wire speed to match. It's been a while since I've done it. But here I'm at 21 volts and I'm just into spray. I had tried a little bit at 19 volts and it was kind of doing the globular thing. For those of you who are carpenters and not welders, spray transfer is when the wire vaporizes before it gets to the plate or to the puddle. In regular welding, it actually is hitting like that thousands of times a second. I forget what it is exactly. But that's where you get that bacon frying sound. Well, this is just zzz. It just buzzes. So that was neat to see. I learned some things, and I'd like to be able to, I wish I had an excuse to do more. But this push system is a stopgap technique at best. Every time I had a little bit of a hiccup starting, it would bird's mouth. And this is a 10-foot long whip, so it's too long too. But it worked. I got my weld done. I would show it to you, but then I have to take it out and take all this apart, so I'm not going to do that today. I will be doing more work on this, and these might be some upcoming videos where the third router in this mess here, I have a student that's making raised panel doors for his little night table sides, and I like to be able to make those all without setting a router up. So I'll put bits in advance, set them all in advance, and he can go from table to table, and it works really slick. But I'm one router short from that yet, but we'll get there. So anyway, that's probably upcoming this next week sometime. I don't have students this week, so it's the Easter break. But yeah, I think we're about 10 subscribers away from the Frosty giveaway, so it'd be great to get that done quickly. And some of the promotional stuff, to be honest with you, I haven't forgotten about it, but I am having trouble finding people to do this stuff in the time that I have. So it seems unfortunate, and maybe I'll end up apologizing for this later, but there's things that you just can't get locally anymore. You have to order them. And I'm not really at the volumes where I'd like to order from somebody. So I don't know, we'll figure it out. I'll work on that and I'll let you know as things become available. I think there was something else I was going to say yet, but yeah, the shop cleanliness, well, yeah, it is bad now, but this week I'm going to try to get some of my lathes out here. I might show you the cart that I'm building to pull all my lathes back and forth. I've just got too much stuff in here now. So, and I have a Woodworkers Guild shop visit coming up at the end of May. So I have to make it look like this shop is always immaculate. So I have something to shoot for there. So anyway, have a joyous Easter. Hopefully you can get together with family or friends or however you celebrate Easter. Celebrate it. I took my son and two grandkids to the Rod and Custom show yesterday in Saskatoon. Ran into a former student there, Drayden. Love your car, and the work he's doing for the Children's Hospital Foundation is amazing. So anyway, shout out to you, Drayden. Awesome work. So that takes care of the weekend edition. I hope you enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and that's what's key. So we'll see you towards the middle of next week. Have an awesome break.